Good afternoon. I've got one question for you. I'm going to start with a question. Are you ready? Are you ready for love? Yeah? If not, we're going to make you ready because we're going to tell you a love story today. Now, in many respects, Tesco has been a matchmaker for decades. Our job is to connect customers to brands that they love. And what talks to relationship heaven better than long-lasting relationships? It's in our DNA. So what we're going to talk to you about today is to create long-lasting relationships and not situationships. We're a bit behind with the slides, aren't we? Okay, so what makes a perfect love story? We put it into 3 sections for you today. The first section is all about finding the one. So Georgia in our Insight team is going to talk you through that. And then Jamie is going to talk to you about the hard yards of settling down. Then I'll be coming back onto the stage to talk to you about never letting go. What happens when the cracks start to show and what can you do about it? So I'm going to hand over to Georgia.
Finding the one is hard. With a dating pool of millions of people to choose from, finding the one requires knowing what you're looking for, narrowing your search and putting your best foot forward. Or in other words, knowing your red flags and avoiding them. This is no different for brands on the search for new customer matches. With 28 million households across the UK and 23 million of them shopping in Tesco, we can help brands identify who they should be looking for and focus their efforts. So, do you know your type on paper? When we think about our type on paper, there are certain categories that we look to. For example, we look for people whose values and interests align with those of our own. We look for someone whose family status is something that we can connect with. Perhaps affluence is really key for you in your criteria. No judgment, if it is. And of course, regionality. No one wants to be trekking halfway across the UK for a rubbish first date. Knowing these things about potential customer matches is just as important for brands. It enables brands to reach the right people in the right places with the right message. And our rich customer insight, powered by Clubcard, enables brands to identify just this. So once you know what you're looking for, it's all about narrowing the search. And our breadth of audience filters enables you to do that. For example, if you are a spices and seasoning brand, your most compatible customer matches are going to be those that like to cook, and we can find them. If you're a dairy alternative brand, your most eligible customers are going to be those that are interested in a plant-based diet, whether that be 100% vegan or simply dabbling in dairy swaps. Whoever they are, we can find them, enabling you to reach and speak to them in the most relevant way. If you're a kids snacking brand, it's imperative that you're reaching customers that have children. Reaching those that don't is simply a waste. They're not going to be interested. And actually, if our insight shows that your most eligible matches are more likely to be in London, we can implement geo-targeting strategies, both digitally and physically, by upweighting media in certain regions and stores, and also amending the creative messaging to spark a more meaningful connection with customers in that area. So if you don't know who your type is, that's fine too, because you can leave the matching to the experts by using the best of our data science. Not quite dating, but too close not to get it up there. Whether customers have bought into your brands or not, our wealth of past purchase data that we have to analyze, paired with our predictive modeling frameworks, enables us to find customers that are most likely to be interested in your brand. These could be customers that have already shown an interest, so perhaps they already buy into the category that your brand plays in, but not yet you. Or it could be customers that actually you don't think have shown you an interest at all. Perhaps they don't buy into your category at all, but by analyzing the rest of their shopping behavior, we know they are likely to be a great fit for you. Or perhaps you have some new news to talk to customers about in the form of a new product. Again, we know customers that love to experiment with new products. We can analyze their past purchase behavior and find those that have been earlier adopters of new products in the past. So using these filters means that we can put a stop to the endless swiping. The endless swiping of customers who aren't interested but are receiving your ads and swiping straight past by using these audiences to power relevant reach on your plans. Or the endless swiping of customers that are interested by reaching them more frequently and more impactfully to disrupt their sleep shopping habits and get your brand noticed. But ultimately, making the right reach out in the first place is just one part of it. We all know it's then about making a great first impression. It's about putting your best foot forward, showing the best of yourself, and sharing your story to really spark a meaningful connection. Our ever-evolving creative canvas at Tesco Media enables brands to do that more than ever. But in this example, I think it's far better that we show you than tell you.
We're never gonna stop, cause we never get enough. We burn till we're out of time. And when we get to the end, we're gonna do it again. Cause tonight is when we come alive. La, 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 la. I'm all about get up, breathe a lot of day. Come give me some. Don't you wanna come? Don't you wanna come? Don't you wanna come alive?
Club card accepted.
You got any plans later?
So, congratulations, guys. You think you found the one. Life is now a heady haze of butterflies and cringingly long phone call goodbyes, but we're sorry to say the hard work starts now. Now, according to external research, in the dating world, it takes nearly 4 relationships before you find the one. In the retail media world, we're seeing a similar picture. Our wonderful ADS team undertook some research that showed nearly, over 5 out of every 10 new-to-brand customers don't purchase a second time. To put that in dating words, over 50% of the time, brands and their new customers aren't getting a second date. Now, we think that this is important for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we feel there is an imbalance between the focus between acquisition comms and retention comms. And that if that balance was redressed, the commercial upside for brands is significant. It would only take just a couple of percentage point shifts in retention rates in your favor to have a considerable increase in the average value of a customer to your brand, but it would also have a significant impact on the profit generated from all of the activity, the sum of all of the investment that went towards driving that acquisition in the first place. So great, huge opportunity. How do we go about it? Well, spoiler alert, Tesco Media doesn't have the secret to everlasting love, but what we do have, because of our extensive experience in this space, working with the biggest brands, we have some tips here to help you nurture your relationships, to help your brands find their happily ever afters. So the first tip is about being present. It's about being there. It's about being there in those small moments and those big moments that is most meaningful. After all, what use is it if you pick up a little treat for your partner on the way home from work one day, if the next you forget it's their birthday? It's those timely communications at the most meaningful moments that drives familiarity, and that increases customer loyalty. Secondly, it's about being consistent. Be present consistently, whether that's across a multitude of media touchpoints across a single customer journey or multiple campaigns across entire seasonal periods. It's important that brands reinforce the reasons why a customer chose you in the first place. More important than that, though, is why they should choose you again. Use your platforms, use your creative canvas, just like the video proposition that we have seen, to highlight your best attributes and also the shared values that will drive and nurture trust and familiarity. And lastly, some of my own advice that I could take on board, I'm sure, which is about being a good listener. Practice and prioritize active listening and be ready to pivot. You have to learn and adapt so that you are continually aligning to changes in your customers' needs and wants. If your partner suddenly wants a takeaway instead of your famous / questionable lasagna, you know it's time to adapt. Being attuned to what your customers are telling you is incredibly important, whether that be through changes in their purchase behavior, making those necessary changes as a result of that. That's what grows the bond between brands and their customers. Now, we wanted to highlight a campaign for you here today that we think exemplifies those 3 points. This was the Walker's campaign aligning to the lunchtime mission. Now, we're all familiar with Walker's, clearly, and the Tesco's meal deal. They already had a flourishing relationship, but the idea was simply to make them inseparable. So, using our data science, we identified new customers, sure, but existing customers and the optimal locations, the optimal store formats, digital and physical environments, the right time, and the right message. We ran the campaign over an extended period and ran across 24 individual media touchpoints, which was twice the number of touchpoints that they would usually run in a retail media campaign. And it's this blend, being present, being consistent, and adapting, that drove demonstrable results. Their retention rates went up. Their purchase frequency ran up. In other words, customers stayed for longer and they spent more. We love this campaign because, sure, it's a big brand, but they're doing more to meet the customer need. They're driving brand preference and they're driving value for customers. They're growing the bond before the cracks start to show and before it's too late.
Thank you, Jamie. So this is all cozy and romantic, right? We're in the early stages of the relationship. Everything's going well. We're actively listening. We found the one. It's all great. I get to do the bit where I talk to you about what happens when the wheels start coming off, where the cracks start to show in the relationship. However, I'm also here to tell you a positive story that it's never too late. I'm going to start by talking about how do you see when the cracks start to show, and how do you find out those signs, right? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Sphere, a platform that some of you may already know. It's our self-service platform where brands and agencies can plan, buy, and measure retail media campaigns across our canvas. Now, this is undergoing a serious amount of investment at the minute, and a lot of that investment is going into what we call the Sphere Insights module. And in the Insights module, what you can do is you can mine brand and category sales data. So this is total sales, unit sales, unique shoppers, aligned against category benchmarks to help you to diagnose and understand where some of those cracks in the relationship might be about to appear. In addition, we can investigate shopping behaviors and shopping insights. And recently, we've announced the launch of a media planning module, which helps you to understand optimal paths to growth, but also opportunity sizing. And so all of these things come together to help you to understand where those gaps and those cracks are appearing and how to go and do something about it. The last thing that I'd just say on Sphere is when we're thinking about the scale of the platform, just to give you a sense as to the size of the data that we're crunching here, in the last 3 months, we've analyzed over 450 million shopping trips. That is some weapons-grade couples counseling. So let's talk about a typical scenario. A customer has fallen out of love with a brand. It's over. The head's been turned. Sorry to see it end. What do we do about that? Well, a typical brief that we get is help us to win back brand lapses. People used to buy the brand who don't anymore. They used to love you, but they left. So the example here is for a large grocery client that we work with very regularly, and we were able to see that brand lapses accounted for 1.2 million individuals, and that's off a customer base of about 17 million, so around about 7%. And we can try and reach them and bring them back, right? We have an inherent understanding of customers. We can identify those audiences. We can work with you on a strategy to bring them back into the brand. Great. And you know what? It might just work, right? That price-led offer message, that tailored creative message in the relevant environments, it really could work. However, as Jamie's just mentioned, that is an exercise in trying to re-engage a brand that has already made a decision to leave you. So what if we changed the conversation, right? So what if we started to think about helping you to understand when those cracks in the relationship are starting to grow, and more importantly, to do something about it? What if we could help you to see into the future? So at our recent Upfronts, we announced the launch of Predictive Audiences. So this helps you to understand customers who are highly likely to be brand decliners. Hopefully really useful information. So if I use the example that we shared before with a large grocery brand, we were able to see that there were over 3 million predicted decliners. That's nearly 20% of their total customer base. And that ultimately means that we can find ways to retain those customers, right? Just to give you a sense as to the importance of this, what we see from using some predictive analysis in some of the work that we're already doing with brands is a retained customer over a 12-month period will spend double that of an acquired customer. They're already with you, they're already fans of your brand, they're already in the relationship, and they're already primed to spend more with you. So I guess to wrap this up, and to really bring the love story to a close, we want to hammer home the message that we see 3 areas that we can help to create the perfect love story with you, your brands, and your customers. The first is make sure you utilize our data proposition to narrow the search, but also use our creative canvas to find the one. Really important, as Georgie said. From a settling down perspective, make sure you're consistent, be present in your approach, but to also make sure you listen, you learn, and you adapt to what's happening in and around your campaigns, in and around your category. And then the third, from a never letting go perspective, is make sure you think just as much, if not more, about how do you retain and grow customer value over time by building those lifelong relationships with brands. We really see that as the secret of success. If you do all of those things, we believe in true love forever. So the last thing that I'll say just to wrap up this session is if you're interested in finding more about how we're helping brands to create beautiful, blossoming relationships, come see us at our event stand. We also have a load of things going on there where you can win perfect date night prizes, like restaurant vouchers and everything like that. And also one lucky person will win an iPad. We believe in self-love, so if you want to keep that iPad for yourself, that's perfectly okay. I think we're going to end it there, so thank you very much for your time.
That was awesome. Amazing theme and analogy. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And in that theme, I've got 2 love-related questions that I've crafted backstage, which I think you'll enjoy. Are the best relationships with brands and agencies slow and steady, or does it tend to be love at first sight? That one's for Steve.
I mean, is it terrible if I say both? It can be both. In my experience, I've tended to find that those relationships that evolve over time they're the really good, really important ones. You know, when you talk about award-winning work and the best practice that we put out into the industry, they tend to have happened over a course of iterations and close working relationships. That's where you build the trust, right? That's where you learn and understand more about customer behavior, and I think that's where it probably comes together. So I'd lean more towards that rather than the love at first sight. It can happen, though. I wouldn't rule it out.
The old romantic in you's kicked in. And honeymoon phases don't last forever. How do you make sure that it's... Georgia's just screaming over there. How do you make sure it kind of works in the long term? What are the components that you sort of need to get right to make sure it isn't something someone comes in, tries, maybe a bit executional, it's the wrong brief, and that kind of taints it, doesn't get it quite right? Is it all about that initial bit?
Shall I take this, or do you want to go at this? Shall I give it a go?
You should. The man with the most experience.
Yeah, 26 years married this year, and I'm talking about the cracks in the relationship. I'm not sure what that says. you probably find like a lot of people would say similar answer to this, right? I think particularly in our world, so much of a long-lasting, fulfilling relationship comes from measurement, right? Knowing what good looks like, knowing what great looks like. And I think we're at pains to talk to the industry about the investments that we're making in measurement, but it's also about a wider education around KPIs and making sure that all the way through the communication chain with brands, agencies, with our teams, etc., is having a real clarity of thought around what success measures look like and holding firm to those principles, because we often see that changes over time. I think we would always be at pains to say lifetime customer value is a really, really interesting metric, right? It's really important, and I don't want to get into the whole ROAS sort of argument
It's
here.
another upfront.
Yeah, there's probably another upfront around that. And obviously, it's really important to show your value day to day, week to week. But it feels like measurement frameworks and strategies that deliver on long-term value are the most. I think that's where you keep the fires burning.
Very, very good. Last question, very, very quickly. You obviously had your own stunning upfront a couple of weeks ago. You talked there about stuff that's coming down the track. Give us a sense of what you're excited about that's coming, that's sort of new and innovative, hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, there's loads. I mean, the work that we're doing to test and roll out video placements within our owned and operated portfolio is really important. We need to think about how we create great value for customers in the discovery phase and around our platforms, but also bring those opportunities to the market. So you'll expect to see more from us on the video side. I think there's lots of really interesting experimentation within clean rooms and how we're thinking about kind of really advanced measurement for brands. I think that's probably another one. And I think some of the stuff that we're talking about with predictive audiences and just helping to simplify through science and through machine learning the ways in which we can help you reach the most relevant customers based on their relationship with the brand. I think those things are probably the three that I call out.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Jamie, Georgia, Steve, give them a massive hand. Tesco Media.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.